Scott, we didn't have Alabama this past Saturday, but we had some interesting games nonetheless, beginning with Florida and Auburn down in the Swamp. And I've already come clean. I didn't watch the game. I was out on a walk, and I just made a decision that I wasn't going to spend the day in front of the television Saturday after I do it every weekend. So, but I did go back after the game and certainly, monitor it while I was walking and could, keep up with it. But went back and watched the highlights, went back and kind of studied it a little bit. And I guess the thing I was taken, by, and I'm wondering if you kind of noticed the same thing watching it live, was just the sloppiness of that game between two top 10 unbeaten teams. It was somewhat of an ugly football game, in my opinion.
It was a lot of penalties, a lot of missed tackles, bad throws, all that kind of stuff. But I'll tell you, don't ever underestimate playing in the Swamp. That when they get energized down there, in Florida's record now 14-5 in the last 19 games against top 10 opponents. That's amazing, and a lot of those wins have come in the Swamp. And Auburn has never, Gus Malzahn, we mentioned this summer, nobody on that staff, nobody on Auburn's roster has ever played in that stadium. And Gus admitted afterwards that you don't see coaches admit, hey, the crowd got to us, but the crowd was huge. And it kept them energized throughout the game. And when P. Ryan broke the game open late with that 88-yard touchdown run, it became unglued. But I thought Auburn lost a lot of its poise at times, made some bad decisions, a lot of false starts in the ball game. You went from 1st and 10 to a lot of times to 2nd and 15. They were constantly behind the sticks. And when you got a freshman quarterback, Gary, and your running game isn't piped up or amped up, and you're 2nd and 17 and 3rd and 12 and 3rd and 15 the whole day against a really good Florida secondary. They finally had their two starting corners back available to play at the same time this year. They've had one guy 1 week and the other guy the next. They finally got both those guys back Saturday, and they played extremely well. Florida's defense is, I'll tell you what, Gary, they get after you. They're intense. Todd Grantham's done a fantastic job with them. And the crazy thing about it, their best pass rushers, Zanuga, didn't even play Saturday. Right. So give Florida a lot of credit. I thought their game plan was fantastic, and they frustrated Bo Nix. And Auburn left some points out there on the board too, Gary. Their defense played extremely well, but you know what? Somebody's got to lose the game in Florida. Big win for them Saturday.
Yeah, it was. Huge win for them. And whether or not they're as good as Georgia, we'll find out. But it keeps them unbeaten and keeps them dreaming of bigger things. For Auburn, of course, they get the bye week. Perfect time for them. And Gus Malzahn was quick to point out after the game, correctly, that all their goals are still in front of them. They still control their destiny in the Western Division. They've got LSU and Alabama ahead. Of course, they play Georgia from the East. Having said that, this was a game that most people picked Auburn to win. They were favored on the road at the Swamp. I did see a few people pick Florida, but I think most people felt like Auburn had a better football team. Defensively, I'm with you. I thought they, when I went back and studied the game, I thought they played well. They got tired. That heat, that humidity took a toll on them. But offensively, it was a struggle, and they didn't run it. And for the first time this year, he's a very talented, good football player. I mean, these people piling on Bo Nix. I mean, the guy's a true freshman. He was playing at Pinson Valley this time last year. But he did struggle, and he's going to see more defenses, unfortunately for him, going forward that are closer to Florida's level than some of the defense he's played against so far this season. What were your takeaways from the performance of Bo Nix, and do you think during the bye week maybe that they give Joey Gatewood a look, or is Gus Malzahn 100% committed to Nix in your opinion?
Well, listen, when you get pressure on a quarterback, I don't care how good they are, and you affect the quarterback. We hear this all the time. Affecting the quarterback and making him make bad decisions, whether it's through pressure or scheme. And Florida does a really good job of mixing things up back there. He looked confused at times. Also, they got him scrambling, running around out there trying to make something happen out of nothing a few times. And got a couple of big sacks. You're 3rd and 5, and you end up with a 4th and 28, and that happened a couple of times Saturday. So, listen, Todd Grantham is a very good defensive coordinator, and that's one thing Florida can do with you. a quarterback may come to the line of scrimmage. And with Auburn, all the window dressing that they do, all the motion, all the different things, the sugar huddles, whatever, Florida just lined up. So this is our defense, and we are going to defend you with this look. And that's the best way to attack, I guess, Malzahn's offense is don't pay attention to the window dressing, the sweeps, all the motion, all the things that they try to do to confuse you. And Florida just lined up and said, we're better than you with our 11 guys, and we're going to make you beat us through the air. We're going to make you beat us with your legs, and he couldn't do it, Gary. And again, that Florida defense played extremely well Saturday.
It did. It really, really did. And as I said, the bye coming for Auburn, I think at a good time.
Yeah, it is.
And they can kind of reset themselves. One final question on Auburn, and we'll move on. Having watched that game the way that you did, having seen them struggle offensively the way that they did, and
yeah.
This isn't. Let's be honest. Gus Malzahn, every play caller is better when you have a strong running game.
Sure.
I think defensively they're good enough. Offensively, are they good enough to make a run at the SEC West, or do you expect more of the same when they play the top-tier defenses that are ahead on their schedule?
Well, we'll say this. Just a good point you just made. Listen, and I said this to you on Saturday. No disrespect to Florida, but this is probably the fourth most talented team on Auburn's schedule that was remaining, okay? I mean, they got to go to Baton Rouge and play the highest-scoring offense in the country, a team that is going to score points on you, and you're going to get the track meet there with LSU in a place you haven't won in 20 years, and it's going to be tough. And then you got to play a physical team in Georgia that can just punch you in the mouth, slow you down, and it's just as physical every bit as Florida is. And then you got to play Alabama, a team that put 59 on you last year. So to me, that was a must-win this past weekend. You don't get it, and now the three remaining teams on their schedule, the big ones, and there's still a couple other problems for Auburn on that schedule too, I think. But still, the three teams that you got to play left, you're not as talented as those three teams moving forward. We all knew that when the year started. So that was a must-win Saturday, Gary. And the terrain ahead is rugged and tough, and it's going to be hard to get through for this Auburn team moving forward.
Scott Moore with us here on the Gary Harris Show. If you want to get involved in our college football conversation, you can call the Bud Light hotline at 205-342-9904. We'll get to Alabama and A&M coming up here in just a little bit. In Knoxville Saturday night, interesting game from the standpoint that Tennessee I did feel like they really rallied around the adversity that they were dealing with, and even the controversy. They make a change at quarterback. Brian Maurer came in, the true freshman, and I'm telling you what, I thought he accounted himself great against a really good Georgia defense. And I'm telling you something, I did catch some of that game Saturday night. Didn't watch it all, but was at dinner and it was on. Georgia's defense is stout. But Tennessee hung in for a half, hung into the third quarter. Eventually, Georgia pulled away to win comfortably 43-14. But what did you take away from that game?
Well, Maurer threw for 207 yards in the first half against the Georgia Bulldogs, and then Georgia made some adjustments in the second half, and it came with a lot of pressure, which he had no idea where some of the pressure was coming from. And it really, Georgia was able to get some turnovers, a scoop and score there to kind of put the game away late. But it was a 14-13 ball game, and then Georgia was fighting for its life. But you know what? Georgia's like that boa constrictor. They just sit there and squeeze on you and squeeze on you and lean on you and lean on you. And then by the fourth quarter, you're dead. You're lifeless. And, listen, I thought Jeremy Pruitt, I thought his team probably played in the first half about as well as it could play. And they were, it's like plugging a leak in a dam when you're going against a team like that, Gary. You're going to have a Band-Aid on this hole here and maybe a finger plug in this hole here, but sooner or later, that dam and that water is too powerful. It's going to break. And that's what happened with Georgia. They're just too good. And Jake Fromm, I'll tell you what, man, Jake Fromm, from what he does for that Georgia offense, I mean, that guy, he is an absolute surgeon. He makes the best decisions in the line of scrimmage, always gets you in the right play, always makes the right throw. The guy does not make bad decisions at the quarterback spot. And the best quarterback in the country throwing a back shoulder fade. I've never seen a guy throw it better than that. So he's accurate. deadly accurate. His leadership on Georgia's team is absolutely spectacular. I mean, let's be honest. I'm not sure you're going to find a better leader anywhere in the country at quarterback than this guy. I'm not talking about talent. I'm talking about being a field general, being a guy that's in control. Everybody rallies around. He is such a great team player for Georgia, and I think it's going to be the best quarterback Georgia's ever had by the time he's said and done. So Jake Fromm is a surgeon. He gets everybody lined up, and he gets to, when they get in trouble, they don't panic at all. They just go to work, and you wake up and bam, you've won the football game 42-13. So Georgia is who we think they are. Very physical, very, very talented. Their offensive line. I'll tell you, Gary, we watched a lot of offensive lines this summer, and there's some that are really good schematically. There's some that are really good physically, but Georgia's got a combination of both the size, physicality, and speed that you just don't have. And they are so deep on that offensive line. Kinley didn't even play this week, and Georgia still ran it when they wanted to, protected the quarterback when they wanted to. The young receivers played much better this week than they did against Notre Dame. This is a great football team. They still got challenges ahead of them too, Gary, because they're going to have to outscore some folks later in the year, and it'll be interesting to see if they can. And their schedule's not that easy either moving forward. So, but Georgia right now, so far, so good with Kirby Smart and his company.
Yeah, I'm with you on Georgia. I mean, they're just so strong across the board, and a physical team, as you said. By the second half, they were battering Tennessee. And I want to ask you one more deal about that. The game was basically decided, and the freshman quarterback Maurer took a vicious shot and just about knocked him out. And I've seen some conversation, Kirby, as you said, was bringing pressure. Listen, you play 4 quarters of the game, and you tell your team to play 4 quarters. That's what Nick Saban says. But there's some out there that felt like that was a little bit, unnecessary for Kirby to continue to be bringing that kind of heat late in the game when the game was decided. And, of course, the blitz, and he just got hammered. You have any kind of reaction to that? Should have Kirby caught off the dogs a little bit?
No, listen, Georgia's very deep, and they played. Georgia plays 27 guys on defense right now. Okay, that's a lot of guys, Gary, to play on defense. They had played 22. They played 27 the other night. Okay, so you're up big. You got a lot of backups in the game, and by the way, Georgia's backups are outstanding. And guys are asked to do what? They're asked to go out there and execute the defense. You bring pressure, you're expected to get pressure on the quarterback. The kid came free, made a great play, a great individual play, and also it was a clean hit. Absolutely tackled him the way you're supposed to tackle him, removed the football, picked it up, scooped and scored. It was great execution, I thought. And, when you're getting hammered, battered at home, and then something like that happens late in the fourth quarter to kind of take a tight game and then blow it open, you're going to get criticism. But it's football, and it's physicality. And that's what Georgia plays with, man. Georgia says, look, we are going to come for 60 minutes, and we're going to punish you physically. And there's a lot of teams out there, Gary, that would like to play that way, but they can't because they don't have that kind of roster. Georgia enjoys that's their calling card this year. So I had no problem with the hit, had no problem with the coverage. And listen, Georgia, the guys that they play with on defense, they gave relentless effort. How many times do we hear that word being used in college football, particularly in this conference, about relentless and playing to the scoreboard? It has zeros on it. So I didn't have any problem with it. It was bad for Tennessee the way it ended, but you can't make any excuses on that play.
Scott Moore with us for a couple of more segments. We're going to preview Alabama and Texas A&M for sure. When we come back on the other side of this break, we're going to take a look at the LSU Tigers against Utah State. A little bit of a slowdown offensively. When you score 42 points, it's not normally a slowdown, but the way they had been piling up. But their defense, just when people were ready to count LSU's defense out, they came up with a nice game against a pretty good Utah State team. We'll break that one down. And we'll take phone calls. Like I said, if you want to get through and talk with Scott, 205-342-9904, the number of the Bud Light hotline.
Yeah, LSU right now, total defense right now, the Tigers are fourth in the SEC. They're giving up about 287 yards a game. That's really, really good considering, the offenses that they've seen so far. So, yeah, they're not having a bad year defensively. And we saw Vandy put up some points. You thought Utah State would too. But on the offensive side of the ball, though, Gary, LSU's averaging 54 points a game. They're the highest scoring offense in the country. That's 3 more than Alabama. And and that comes off a 42-point performance on Saturday. So this team, first of all, we knew they had talented wide receivers, but man, Joe Burrow has played extremely. He did throw a pick in back on the early. Well, he threw a pick out of his own end zone Saturday. Made a bad read, but LSU was able to get Utah State off the field on a short field like that, and I was really impressed with that. It should have been an easy score for Utah State, and it was not. LSU dug in its heels there, and kind of just said, "Hey, forget the play," and they played the next play and went on and just played. I think Joe Burrow now has thrown 5 touchdown passes the last 3 games he's played. So, we thought maybe early on, okay, this is a fad. They're just trying to, they're not playing against good competition and all that. Now this is who they are. After 6 weeks into the season, this is who they are, and everybody needs to get used to it. And I think Florida going down there this weekend, I can't wait to see this matchup, because I think Florida on the back end, they really match up well and could probably slow them down a little bit. I mean, this will be a good preview for the Alabama game too. So it'll be interesting to see how Florida defenses them and how they react to, the best defense that they've seen all year by far. I think Florida gets the Nuga back too. So they'll get different pressure, different looks from Todd Grantham. But LSU's going to score on you. That's just the way it is. And you're going to have to win a scoring award. That would go with Alabama. That would go with Auburn, and certainly with Florida. To beat this LSU team, you're going to have to put up a lot of points, because their wide receiving core is dang good.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's just below Alabama's in terms of production and talent too. They're really good, but Burrow, he's been spectacular to this point, Gary. And I think it's time to say, yeah, LSU is who we think they are too. This is not a fad. This is a good offensive football team right now.
All right, let's take a phone call as Jumbo is with us on the Bud Light Hotline for you, Scott. Good morning, Jumbo.
Hey, Gary, what's up?
Hey, brother. How you doing?
Great weekend. Auburn got beat, yeah. Hey, with this LSU team, all right, now their offense is explosive, but ours is more explosive, I think. We got the 4 horsemen and the receivers, and I just love our offense, and I think we're going to get the running game better. With that being said, Alabama's defense, I think, is better than LSU's, and that's going to give us a chance to stop them more on offense. Y'all know the well as I do, you can't give Coach Saban over 10 days to prepare for a team because he'll tear them apart, and that's history's going to repeat itself on this one. But what do y'all think? I mean,
yeah,
do you
Jumbo,
think that Alabama's defense is good enough to stop them more times than they'll stop us?
Well, LSU and Alabama both have the bye before that game. So,
right.
and I think that even with A&M coming up, I think you're like most fans, you're Alabama fans, you're looking ahead to November 9th. I think that's pretty common right now.
Well, I even though we're in the subject that I am, but actually my mind is set on Texas A&M.
Yeah, I get it. But at the same time, that's a game that's looming out there. It is. So there's nothing wrong with that. That's what I'm saying. Scott, okay. I'm listening to Jumbo, and I think Alabama's defense is going to be fine. I'm not sure I would say right now that I believe it's better than LSU's. I'd say probably at this point in the season, they both have a lot of talent on that side of the ball. I think LSU, quite frankly, has a little more experience on defense. Where do you come down on the defensive issue in terms of Alabama being able to get more stops than LSU when these two teams play here in about a month?
Alabama's 6th in the conference right now. They're giving up 325 a game. That's way more than their Alabama's average the last 10 years. So it's been around 267 yards a game.
Mm-hmm.
So they're about 70 yards to the north of that. So listen, I think they're going to be better as this team. You're going to get 3 more games out of these young players, which is going to help tremendously. So, but LSU, listen, we know how good their secondary is. They're very, very good back there. Grant Delpit is one of the very best players in the country at his position. Alabama will counter that with Xavier McKinney. Alabama's linebacking core is very young. Alabama's defensive front, I'd give the nod to Alabama right now. So, but we're going to find out statistically, Alabama's statistics should improve over the next 3 games, Gary.
Well, let me throw this at y'all just right quick. At this point in time, and I know we're playing LSU this week, and they've got Florida, and I think Florida's going to go into LSU and upset them. That's my take on that.
Okay.
But at this point, who has played the better defenses, Alabama or LSU?
Scott, who do you think's played the better defenses so far, Alabama or LSU?
I think it's kind of a wash, to be honest with you. I mean, when you start looking at it, LSU's played Vandy, Alabama's played Ole Miss. Ole Miss, beat Vandy pretty handily the other night. Georgia beat Vandy pretty handily the other night. Alabama really hasn't played a defense, let's be honest, that's challenged them. I don't think LSU has either, because I agree with that. I don't think Texas defense is that great. I mean, LSU scored at will against them, and Oklahoma probably will too. So I think I think it's a wash right now in terms of who they play. I mean, Florida's going to be the biggest challenge for them moving forward. For Alabama,
okay. You watch the schedule clean. You watch the schedule clean. Alabama and LSU are up to where they're at. Let's just say, play it next week, Alabama versus LSU. Who do you take?
Oh, I take Alabama right now.
Okay.
Now, Jumbo, I disagree with you on one thing. I think LSU's gonna take care of Florida Saturday. Now, that's my early pick on that. But I would take Alabama if they played this Saturday in Bryant-Denny Stadium. I'd take Alabama over LSU, Scott.
Yeah, I would too.
I mean, listen, LSU has beat Alabama since 2011. Okay, and let me just tell you this too, and people aren't talking about this, but watch it. If LSU wins out, that will include victories over Auburn and Florida and Texas. Guys, I'm telling you, when the first college football playoff poll comes out the week before LSU will come to Tuscaloosa ranked number 1 in the country. Bank it.
Ooh.
They will be. They'll have the most important
All right, we'll
schedule.
see. Hey, we got to get to the break. Thanks, Jumbo.
All right, roll.
Welcome back in for hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show. Gary Harris, Josh Smith, intern Eli with you, and we continue our conversation with Scott Moore as we wrap up hour number 1 and move into hour number 2. We are going to get to Alabama and A&M. Scott Moore back with us on the Bud Light Hotline from iTalkSEC Radio and the Jay Barker Show. All right, Scott, were you like me in the sense that only 5 games into the season, and normally, we're used to having one bye week, and I think a lot of fans going into the season were like, oh, my gosh, 2 byes, don't like it. But I thought for this Alabama team, even though they had not even really been tested this season, I thought this bye came at a really good time for them. You agree?
Absolutely. Remember the Heat. And those three games Alabama played in South Carolina, the home game at 11 a.m. and then last week against Ole Miss. The Heat, I thought, really affected this team. It was like playing really an extra 2 games, I thought, because of the heat and what you had to deal with. It's been uncharacteristically warm. Everybody knows that. But I thought the team was tired physically. I think the injuries have bounded up a little bit, and just the emotion of going through those 3 very, very. It's been a tough summer too. Don't forget the 2 scrimmages. I thought the team was tired. I thought they really looked gassed in the second half against the Miss. I thought the bye came at a very, very good time. Now the weather has turned a little bit. I think that's going to revitalize this team, like it will a lot of teams. I think a lot of teams are going to play much better now that we've gotten into fall weather, this fall weather pattern. Believe me, people don't talk about that. That is a huge factor. It's a huge factor when you get to play at night and avoid some of these heat games. Because 2 or 3 of these games, playing in them, it takes a physical toll and a mental toll on your team. People don't realize how difficult it is to play a football game in 96-degree weather. One of them is tough enough, but to play 3 of them in a row like that, I thought it had a major impact on this team. So I think the break came at a great time. And let me say this. I love the fact that this team has 2 byes this year. I think college football, I think it's a great model to have. I think all these teams that are playing in college football, I think you need 2 byes. It's great for depth. It's great for your mental capacity going through a season. So hopefully in the future we'll see this. I know it happened this year because we started the season so early and the way the schedule went. But I'm a big favor of seeing 2 bye weeks in college football. I think it's great for depth and for the overall mental health of the game, I think.
I'm with you. Now that we're into it, I think 14 weeks to play 12 games is the right schedule. And we won't have it this way next year. But I think it's good. Yeah. And especially if you have teams that go on like Alabama, Clemson usually do and play 13, 14, or 15 games. I'm with you 100%. I wish they would do it. And I think it's also nice for broadcasters and fans, to have a couple breaks away from your your
Man,
own
you're
team.
exactly right.
You still get
Yep.
to watch football if you want, but it gives you a chance to kind of break up the season. All right, Alabama goes to College Station preseason. I looked at this game and I thought, wow, this is going to be a tough one. Jimbo in his second year, and I expected A&M to take a step in the right direction. It really hasn't happened. I've not been impressed with A&M. Granted, their two losses were to good teams at Clemson and home against Auburn, but they really haven't been impressive against anybody. And against Arkansas, quite frankly, they were fortunate to win the game in Arlington. Now they come off a bye. Alabama's a much better team. They opened as an 18-point favorite, which still blows my mind, the spreads Alabama plays against in the conference. But there's a reason for that. Although, Scott, here's where I'm going with this. I think you'll see a different A&M team, much like a lot of teams that play Alabama that aren't having the type of seasons that they want or are big underdogs. They throw caution to the wind. When A&M was playing Arkansas, that was a game they felt they had to win. This is a game, I think, quite frankly, they feel like, you know what, we're probably not going to win it, but we got nothing to lose. We'll worry about games that our fans expect us to win when we play, Ole Miss and Mississippi State and South Carolina and those people. So I think you'll see an A&M team with Kellen Mond. They're going to use his legs, which, quite frankly, the way he's throwing the ball, that's probably his best asset. They're going to have all kinds of new wrinkles. They're going to let it all hang out. And so from that standpoint, if you're Alabama coming off a bye, A&M's coming off a bye as well, you got to be ready to expect the unexpected, because I think we'll see A&M do a lot of things in terms of breaking tendencies and putting in special packages for this game. You agree?
Yeah, interesting thing at A&M, they're eighth in the conference right now in total offense. They're getting about 426 yards a game. Interesting thing, too, Kellen Mond's rushed 32 yards this year, the whole season.
Yeah, he just hadn't run.
Hadn't run, hadn't really needed to. And but I watched this team really closely against Clemson. And one thing that happened with them, Clemson's offensive line really punched them in the mouth, and I was real surprised at the lack of physicality that A&M showed against Clemson, and then came back and did the same thing against Auburn. They have a tendency when they get punched in the mouth to wilt, and but they're playing at home. They got Alabama coming in there, and listen, Jimbo Fisher was hired to do one thing, and that's beat Alabama, because he knows if he beats Alabama, then they're going to get to where they need to get at College Station. So this is why he was hired. This is why he got $76 million. It wasn't to win the conference, because it was to win this game. Because if you win this game, everything else is possible, right? So you're right. This is a tough game, tough environment to go into. It's one of the loudest stadiums that Alabama will play in all year long. It's going to be a strong mental challenge for them. But my question is this: if Alabama jumps up on them like they've jumped up on everybody else, to me the key is a quick knockout, Gary. I think if Alabama comes out and scores quickly, gets on a roll like they've been able to do here to start the season, and you wake up and it's 21-0, I think that's the way to knock A&M out. I don't think they can come back from that kind of hit. The thing is, you don't want to do is let A&M hang around, get some big plays out of the quarterback, convert some third downs, keep Alabama's defense out on the field, and get them. I know what Jimbo wants to do. He wants to get 86, 88 snaps out of his offense versus Alabama's defense. That gives him the best chance to win. So Alabama's got to get off the field on defense. They're going to score a lot of points, Gary. My question is, does it tire the tide out in the third and fourth quarter? That's the only chance Jimbo has. Can he win a scoring war? I don't think he can. I think Alabama can out-physical them. I think Alabama can win a track meet Saturday. I'm just not impressed, though, with this. The overall psyche of A&M team and also the physicality that they have played against. They're not very deep on the defensive line. There are a lot of injuries on that side of the ball, and particularly against Clemson and against Auburn. So we'll see how the defensive line holds up. I don't think they're going to hold up very well, though, Gary.
Coming off the bye and with the heat that Alabama's played in that you alluded to, all the plays they played on defense, do you think, you mentioned Georgia playing 27 guys on defense, do you think Alabama will make more of an effort, particularly up front on defense, to get more players into the game and into the rotation for the second half of this season?
That's a great point, and I think the next 3 weeks you have to. And listen, let's be honest. I mean, this team needs younger players to develop, and we've heard Nick Saban talk about this forever. Guys have got to develop. I mean, it's the next guy up mentality. So a couple of these young defensive linemen that are trying to learn what to do and how to do it and why it's important to do it that way, they've got to start coming to the forefront. They've got to play better. It'd be great to get LeBron Ray back. Hopefully he'll be back sooner than later. So you need all available bodies. Anybody that can play and contribute at this point of the season, you're going to need them moving forward, because it's only going to get tougher, Gary, when you get to November. And so Alabama's got to create some more natural depth on that defensive line. And it's because you're going to play more snaps. With this offense and the way they're scoring, this defense is going to be asked to do more. It's going to be asked to be on the field more. And the only way to combat that is have more depth, more quality depth in the secondary, more at linebacker, and certainly the rotation on the defensive line could really use 2 or 3 more guys playing at a really high level. And this is a perfect time to do it. At A&M this week, and then Tennessee and Arkansas, perfect chance to be able to develop the kind of talent and depth that you need to make a championship run in November.
Indeed. When you look at the schedule, we mentioned the A&M, of course, this weekend, and then Alabama gets Tennessee and Arkansas at home, another bye, at home against LSU, at Mississippi State, home against Western Carolina, and at Auburn. Now, this is the game that's important right now because the next one is A&M. But do you still agree with me? And that's why they play the games. We'll see what happens. But I still think this comes down to a 2-game schedule for Alabama in the regular season. I think it's LSU and Auburn. I just don't see any of these other teams having a shot at beating Alabama. So you got to play them before you get to LSU. But at the same time, those are the 2 games, right? I mean, that's going to decide the fate of this Alabama football team.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it is obvious what it is. And, the LSU game is going to be monumental. We talked about it last break. Can you imagine a number 1 ranked LSU team coming to Bryant-Denny and how difficult that'd be on Ed Orgeron and his staff to try to have to go do that? And listen, that may be the challenge this Alabama team needs, is to have the number 1 ranked team come into Bryant-Denny and play. I hadn't seen that in a while. So, but yeah, it's a 2-game season, and it's not. I don't think it's bad to say that. It is what it is. Sometimes you have to take the obvious and run with it. And because Arkansas and Tennessee right now aren't going to challenge this team. I mean, those games are going to get better statistically, play more people, find depth, just like we were just talking about. That's the good break that you have with the schedule. But I will say this: at the end of this, when it's all said and done, Alabama's not going to. You look at the schedule; they're going to have to play to get to the college football playoff. You're going to have to beat 4 of the best teams in America, just probably to even have a chance to go win the national title. So the schedule's going to get difficult, no matter what happens at the end of the year. But this regular season, it's LSU and it's Auburn, and you better play well in those 2 ball games, or you might be on the outside of the playoff looking in.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. One more thought before we wrap it up on Jeremy Pruitt in Tennessee. They don't have many what I would call winnable games left on their schedule.
Yeah, I
do think this is a winnable game Saturday. They're at home against Mississippi State. I mean, I think that's a winnable game. They're not going to win at Alabama. I guess technically they have some winnable games after that. But where I'm going with this is if they don't get some wins, and gosh knows on November 2nd they better beat UAB at home. But if they don't get some wins here, is Jeremy Pruitt going to last through the season? Do you think Fulmer would pull the plug on him?
I don't think they're going to. Okay. I thought Tennessee, the effort that they gave Saturday night was about as good as, considering the circumstances and what we've seen this year. The youth starting a true freshman quarterback. I thought what they did Saturday night was play to their capability for about 45 minutes. And everybody knows the depth caught up with them and all that. Mississippi State's going to be a challenge because it's coming after Georgia and it's before Alabama. And that's something you got to take in consideration. That's going to be a tough spot for them. But that is a winnable game. It might be the only winnable game left on their schedule. You got to win these games at home. You have no choice. But I don't think they're going to get rid of Jeremy Pruitt. A transition right now would probably be the worst thing for that program. I just don't think they can make a change right now, Gary, and feel good about it. I mean, who are they going to go get that's a better coach right now?
All right. Great stuff, Scott Moore, as always. Folks, listen to Scott on the Jay Barker Show right here on Tide 100.9 at noon. And, of course, iTalkSEC Radio. And you catch him here every Monday, and you can catch him on his Facebook page. He's how are you? Just real quick, how are your picks doing this year? What do you call yourself? The fearless prognosticator. What is it? The pigskin prognosticator of what kind of?
A prodigious proportion. Man, I've been outstanding, Gary. 67% against the spread this year, and 78% straight up. So, been on fire, brother.
Yeah, I'm glad to know somebody's hot because I have not been. Thanks a lot, Scott.